Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk a lot about the Dodge Charger Daytona, and Dodge Charger SIXPACK, as well as the Windsor Assembly Plant. So if you read Mopar Insiders this morning, and if you read Mopar Insiders this afternoon, you'll probably see some articles about the situation. The first one we posted this morning, or I posted this morning, was about the actual shutdown. Now the shutdown began on Monday, so April 7th. And I've been getting flooded with emails because there's a picture that's been shown online that everybody keeps asking me, are they building Hemi cars at Windsor? And if you look at this picture, this is the actual full picture of the supposed picture that was leaked online of these new Hemi cars that were supposed to be built at Windsor. This is a picture that I reused for today's article, but I actually posted this on December 11th or 7th or something like that. Anyways, it was back in December that I took. This is a screenshot that I took from a Stellantis media video that they sent us. They actually sent us a video, a B-roll video of Charger Daytona production at Windsor in December. So you can see right here, this is the actual photo. You can see the guy in the Nautica shirt behind. And you can see that this is the engine bay for the Charger Daytona. So this is not a Hemi-powered car. I've talked to people at the plant this week, and they have said there is no such Hemi production being done at the plant whatsoever. Another thing is, if you do know anything about Chrysler and Stellantis, if they were going to build such cars, they wouldn't build them on the assembly line. They would actually build them at the pilot shop at the Auburn Hills campus. So they actually have a pilot plant that they produce all the prototypes and pilot, like pre-production cars. And it works just like a normal assembly plant. It's actually at CTC. So those cars would be built there and then sent off to do initial testing. So these aren't being built. I want to make sure that everybody knows these are not Hemi cars. This is an actual Charger Daytona. Nothing has changed in this car. But if we go to the article, the whole thing is they're going to be down for 2 weeks, at least. And that's the thing. We don't know whatsoever how long they're going to be down. So 4,000 workers are on temporary layoff right now from Windsor. And then we're hearing approximately 2,000 additional people are going to be laid off as well because of supply chain restrictions. So this is going to play into another part of what I'm talking about today on Mopar Insiders, and that's the 2026 Dodge Charger production schedule. Again, they're assessing everything, and like I've been saying for the past several months, I know everybody's getting sick and tired of it. We're seeing so many changes going on and on and on. Like, again, we had seen that the production schedule for the Dodge Charger SIXPACK was actually pushed back from when it was originally supposed to make its debut. It was originally supposed to make its debut when they announced the launch of the car last year. They said, hey, the four-door and the electric models, or not the electric, but the internal combustion models, the SIXPACK models, were going to be introduced in basically Q1 2025. Well, we're done with Q1 2025, and they're not done yet. They had originally pushed those models back to late 2025. However, because of the sales, of the Charger Daytona, which has been very meek, they basically sold 2,115 units between the US and Canada combined for the first quarter. They basically are in a rush to get these new gas-powered models into production and get them on dealer lots. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But because of that, they originally moved the production up to June for the SIXPACK models. Then we were hearing up until this week that May was the scheduled production date. They had moved the production up because everything was going good through initial testing with the cars. So we were hearing that even with the tariffs, the cars were still going to be produced. However, now what we're hearing from people that we know at Windsor and people that we know within Unifor, that they don't know yet. They've had a meeting. Stellantis can't give them really any timeline just yet, but they're assessing the whole situation with the tariffs and stuff. But we might see elongated shutdown at Windsor. Now, Windsor's important not just because of the Dodge Charger, but because it's the home of the Chrysler Pacifica / Chrysler Voyager / Chrysler Grand Caravan. right now, the Chrysler Pacifica and Chrysler Voyager here in the U.S. and the Chrysler Grand Caravan over in Canada are really the only vehicles that Chrysler builds. So this plant builds the entire Chrysler portfolio. Chrysler minivans were up in sales, and they led the way for the segment in Q1 2025. So it's going to be very important to see how fast they can get this plant back up and running, because the Chrysler minivans actually sold, I think it was like 23 or 24,000 units in the first quarter just in the U.S. alone. So that's a huge number compared to the Charger Daytona. So the Charger Daytona, again, we're hearing things like, hey, it's going to be a order-only basis for 2026. That's what our sources are telling us. But the Pacifica's basically a huge profit maker for Stellantis. So it's going to be very important to get that model back going and see where it aligns with the new tariff situation. Now, again, you also have to remember, too, is the Canadians are going through an election process right now. We have Mark Carney, who's going for the Liberals. He's in this big green movement. And then we have Pierre Poilievre, who's a conservative, and he's for opening up pipelines and stuff like that. He's more on par with what, Donald Trump's agenda is. And it's caused a lot of chaos because, right now the Canadians don't like Trump so much because of these tariffs and what it's doing to their country. But it's all about fair trade. As an American, I see Trump's way, and then I watch a lot of Canadian politics because I live on the border. Jared Belfour, who's my co-editor at Mopar Insiders, is Canadian, so we both look at both situations a little differently than most people. But there's something that has to be done with the trade stuff, and we probably won't know what's going to happen until April 29th, because April 28th is the actual election in Canada. So on the 29th, we'll know who's going to be the actual the party leader, not just party leader, but actual which government's going to be elected in as the majority. And it should be a huge change if it's going to be the Conservatives. So we'll probably see really quick talks with the Conservatives if they win, compared to, what we'll see with the Liberals. What they're doing right now is they're just fighting against Trump and saying oh well. So it's going to be very interesting, no matter what kind of, end of the spectrum you're on, for if you're, conservative or if you're a liberal. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why Stellantis is should we extend production or not? They're not really telling Unifor, but I'm sure they're watching this thing like a hawk, because, again, Charger Daytona sales have been down, but the Pacifica is still very successful. So what's very interesting is, again, 4,000 people temporarily laid off for at least 2 weeks. We don't know if they're when or if they're going to be extended out, for an additional few weeks or whatever. And then additionally, 2,000 additional people are laid off temporarily because of supply chain restrictions. What we did get a video from CTV. They did have a talk with James Stewart, who is the basically the Unifor Local 444 president, and he had some interesting things to say. So I figured we'd watch that real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Charger SIXPACK.
Well, thousands of auto workers in Windsor are at home this morning instead of work on the first day of the 2-week shutdown at one of Ontario's largest auto operations, the Windsor Stellantis auto plant. Now, the closure is a direct result, we know, of President Trump's U.S. tariffs. The plant's union says that 6,000 members received temporary layoff notices at both assembly plants and parts manufacturers. For more on how workers are reacting and next steps, we're joined this morning by James Stewart, president of Unifor Local 444. James, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You have described this shutdown as devastating as a military attack. What have you heard from workers in the past few days, and what are you hearing and feeling this morning?
The workers are concerned, obviously, when they made the announcement that they were going to shut for a couple of weeks. It's not the fact that we have a 2-week shutdown in place. It's the not knowing what happens after that. So they gave us the notice. They told us we were down for a couple of weeks while they reassess. They said there will be changes to the production schedule following that. We don't have a clear indication of what that is yet, but they are making assessments to see how they deal with it. The workers are obviously nervous for the same reasons. We don't know What happens after the couple of weeks? What is it? What's the picture going to look like?
So right there, James Stewart basically says, hey, we don't know what's going to happen after the 2 weeks. So again, plans are changing very rapidly. They don't even know. So I'm sure within the next week, they're going to be sitting down with uniform officials and talking about what the future is going to be like. That's just what's happening right now. Again, Stellantis is changing everything because with all the tariff changes and stuff and with how vehicles are doing, I mean, they're going to be looking at everything they can to save money. And, you know, people have to realize that's what Stellantis is in, is they're in the business to make money. The problem is now they're not into cost-cutting expenditures like they were with Tavares. They're actually spending money to build products that people want. So it's going into another kind of aspect where instead of doing cost-cutting and laying people off, they're really going to have to make other observations and changes to really be more competitive. So there's a lot of changes going on. And obviously, Unifor doesn't know everything yet. Fast forward to this afternoon. This article should be going live just as this video is going live on my channel. I wrote a thing about the Windsor shutdown may stall the Dodge Charger SIXPACK launch. And like I said, you know, the SIXPACK was moved back basically to, well, it was moved to June. And then we're hearing May that was going to be the starting point. However, it's already April. And if they extend the production or extend the production halt at Windsor, we're probably not going to see this car come out in May. We might see it pushed back to June. We might even see it pushed back farther, depending on how the Stellantis wants to take it. I'm sure it's depending on what government comes in, and how these tariffs are really attacked at from both sides. Like if they're negotiated into fair terms, we might see this car even faster. It just depends. So with that change in government, it's probably going to be a month or so until we really know what's going to happen with this car. From what I was originally told like a week ago, I was told that the Charger SIXPACK launch was still on for May, and that it didn't matter if the tariffs were coming or not. Dealers had been begging for this car to come to, their showrooms. So I wrote this in my article, but I'll explain it on here too. I have talked to several dealers around Metro Detroit, and a lot of them are very disappointed in how the Dodge Charger Daytona has been, presented and sold. A lot of people have been complaining about the pricing, even with incentives, that the car is too much. And it's kind of alienated a lot of Dodge's customers that come into the dealership. I talked to one general manager specifically who asked me to keep them anonymous because they actually went out and kind of really went down on why they're mad. But what we're hearing is Stellantis is really pushing, because if you look at what's going on with the Charger Daytona, okay, the first thing is they launched the car late. They launched it as a 2024, and then immediately after, like a couple weeks after, they started pushing out 2025 models. So dealers are already fighting that they have 2024s and 2025s on lots. And now, within a few months after, we're seeing the 2026 model years coming. So dealers are very perplexed that they're going to have all these abundance of Chargers like they did for the 2023 model year, which some of them still have, and they don't know what to do with them. We've already seen some dealers put them in the demo fleets, like this one here. This was at a local dealer where I actually seen that this dealer had multiple Dodge Chargers in their demo fleets. And again, this isn't the dealer that I talked to. This is just a picture I took. But you can see this is a 2025 model, and dealers are putting miles on these cars and letting their salesmen run them around as demos, because if they can rack the miles up on them a little bit, they can sell them for a little cheaper, even with the incentives. So we've been seeing crazy lease deals, especially here in Metro Detroit. I just got a thing the other night, basically from, who was it that posted it? I can't remember even somebody posted it, but somebody posted that there was a Dodge Charger Scat Pack lease deal. You put $4,000 down, you get like $5,000, or sorry, you get 5,000 miles for, per year for 2 years. So 10,000 miles in total, but your payments are only like $29 a month. Like they're literally giving these cars away because they can't get rid of them. If you go to buy one of these cars right now, we're seeing incentives go from like $12,000 on the hood of these cars to over $17,000. I just looked at a Scat Pack last night that was, stickered at what, $83,000, and basically the dealer was selling it for 54. So if you look at what these cars, like the residual value for a lease is, they're actually selling them cheaper than what the residual value was supposed to be in 2 years. So the value on these Charger Daytonas are just falling out, and dealers just cannot get rid of them. And it's really freaking dealers out. And that's why they want the six-pack model so bad. So I talked to one of the general managers, and I'll tell you what he said. He basically said that we can't give these electric Chargers away. He goes, we sold 2 new Charger EVs so far this year. He goes, the car looks great, people love the design, and the performance stats on paper are impressive. But that doesn't matter if you can't get buyers to commit. He goes, the price is too high, and the real-world range just doesn't cut it compared to what's already out there. He also went on to say, we've gotten them sitting out front with big rebates on the windshield and still no takers. And it's not just us, it's happening all over. He goes, Dodge pushed hard with the EV angle, but the muscle car crowd just isn't there. He goes, we'll keep ordering plug-in hybrids like the Grand Cherokee and Wrangler 4xEs, but full EVs, he goes, we're done ordering those for inventory until something changes. And he assured me that it's not just their dealer. So, yeah. Again, the dealers don't want to get in trouble for saying these things out, and they don't want to bash, Stellantis, because they're trying to build a relationship with Stellantis. But the EV thing isn't working. Stellantis knows that. But the problem is it's hard to change course when this stuff's been in plans for few years, and then everything's sent out immediately, fast-paced, and not executed properly. So Stellantis is losing tons of money on these cars. They're basically, like I said, they're all their profits cut out of them. They're basically selling them how EVs used to be. Like, hey, we built this thing for X amount of dollars. Dealers might be lucky to make a few bucks on them, but they just want to get rid of them at this point. So that's why we're going to see 2026 cars, from what we heard, is going to be order basis only. So if you want an electric Dodge Charger, you'll still be able to get one. They're not abandoning the electric vehicle movement. Some, like I said, some states are really pro EV, and you'll be able to order them. And it's not going to be cut down where you can order them. Anybody can go and order a 2026 car. But if you want like a Dodge Charger Daytona 4-door, from what we heard, you're going to have to go into a dealer and actually order it. So they won't be building them for dealers just to put in inventory. And that's going to be at least for a while, because they have so many Dodge Charger Daytonas, like the 2-door ones even, from 2024 and 2025 still on lots. I guarantee that people are still going to be up in air about these cars probably going into the next month, and there's going to be even more incentives to get rid of them, because if things change with the government over in Canada and Trump negotiates with them new term deals, if the cars go out to production, again, you're going to have a lot of 2024s. You still got some 2023s. You're going to have 2024s, 2025s, and 2026s on the lot. It's just bad marketing from Dodge. Like, they should have just bit the bullet, announced that, hey, we're going to change the cars. Even if you had to go through and change the cars, somehow from when they were built in 2024 and just build them as 2025s, or even because they were building them late, they should have just built them as 2025s. And it wouldn't have been so bad, because the 2025 model year is so short to begin with. Now you're looking at 2026s. I mean, it just looks bad no matter what the situation is. So I feel bad for those who bought their Dodge Charger Daytonas and paid full price for them. I feel really bad. And I feel bad for those who have them right now and the value's just fallen out of them. It's going to be very interesting to see how bad this hurts Stellantis in the long run with customers. We've seen it before. Right now, certain vehicles, some people won't even put loans out to. You have to put money down before you even get the loan. You get dealers that are not really making good deals on Hornet RTs. The Hornet RT values have just fallen so much that banks are actually saying that they're dangerous to take a loan against, because if they get repoed, and let's say it's a $56,000 Hornet RT, as soon as you take it off that lot, it loses some of its value, and you look at fair market pricing, and fair market pricing is, let's say, like 42. As soon as you take it off that lot, you're losing $14,000 in value. And if you get it repoed immediately, because a lot of these deals that they're doing right now, a lot of people just can't afford cars. I mean, $1,000 a month, people can't afford it. So a lot of there's repos have been up big time, and there's what they're saying is the vehicles like that are very dangerous, and Stellantis vehicles are not holding their value like they have been in the past. There are some vehicles that are still holding their value pretty well, but vehicles like the Hornet, vehicles like the Dodge Charger Daytona are certainly examples that aren't cutting it for what people buy their cars for. Now, mind you, cars always depreciate, but those vehicles are depreciating ultra fast, and the Dodge Charger Daytona seems to be the car that's depreciating the most out of pretty much any car on the market right now. So if you're really interested in buying one, you can get a really good deal on one right now. If you're interested in leasing one, you can get a really good deal on one. It's not a bad car. I've driven the Scat Pack. I actually like the Scat Pack. But for what it was priced, it's crazy. If they would have just had these prices to begin with and said, hey, we know we're going to lose money on the EVs, but we're going to put them out there as affordable cars, they would have sold a lot more. Instead, people are seeing that it's getting desperate and they're putting all this money on the hoods of the cars, and they're thinking, do I really want something that they can't get rid of? It's just bad marketing. So with that, it'll be very interesting to see how 2026 comes about. We got a lot to learn in the next few weeks because obviously, again, James Stewart said it. They don't even know what's going on. We might see the production halt at Windsor. Hopefully we won't, but we might see it expanded by a few more weeks just to see if we can get past the Canadian elections and see what goes on from there. And I wouldn't doubt that Stellantis is going to probably do that. But it's going to be very, very important, especially for the Chrysler brand, to see this whole trade war come to an end, because with the Pacifica, that's their only vehicle. And Chrysler's actually been doing pretty good. If you look at what they did in 2024 compared to Dodge, they had the minivan lineup, and that was it. They sold approximately 5,100 300s that were left over. But if you look at compared to Dodge sold 144,000 vehicles in the U.S. Chrysler sold over 120,000. So, I mean, it's going to be very important for those brands, especially. It's not just Dodge, it's Chrysler as well. What I've heard from both Unifor and UAW, like actual people higher up in the UAW and Unifor that deal with Stellantis directly, they've both been saying that they have scheduled meetings within the next week and a half to find out what Stellantis is doing. Because Stellantis has been hard at work trying to decide, hey, are we going to shuffle some production around to justify making new cars here in the U.S. and doing whatever. So over the next week, we're going to learn a lot, and there's probably going to be a lot more videos and a lot more articles on Mopar Insiders about what's going on. But right now, not everybody knows. So take it with a grain of salt. Hopefully we'll be hearing something again with especially the UAW this week for sure. They're supposed to have a meeting in Detroit from what I hear this week. So hopefully we'll be hearing more probably on Friday, if not Monday or Tuesday. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video, and have a good one.